Welcome to the IDP Plus Player Props Podcast, where if you're looking for some tackle props to place for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, you've come to the right place. That's Johnny. I'm Axton. Stick around. We'll get into some of our favorite tackle props for the divisional round of the NFL season. Yes, everybody, welcome back. It is playoff time for the NFL season, and Johnny and I are back again with a good little menu of tackle props that we like for this week. If you've been here before, you know how this goes. If you're new here, this whole show's is based around defensive players. Johnny and I give out a handful of tackle props that we like, make our case for it. Hear us out. If anything strikes a chord with you, feel free to tail one or more of them and place a little wager. This is all in good fun. I just want to preface this, like every week, by saying that this is more just laying out research we've done to make bets of our own, as opposed to making suggestions that you should bet. So if you like our case for bets that we might have made, then that saves you a little bit of research. We're kind of trying to save you all that time, and pick ones that you like and put them together with other props that you like. And let us know if you hit anything. We love to hear all the comments. So like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. So also go check out the website at idpplus.com. So enough of all that. We'll start getting into it here in just a second. I just want to remind everybody to set a limit and stick to it. Remember to bet responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it with Johnny's first play of the week. So what have you got for the people, Johnny? Give them what they want.
So I got a pick for each game this week. The first game I'm looking at is the Rams versus the Eagles, and that is CJ Gardner-Johnson to go under his assisted tackles at 1.5. We are taking the under here, folks, and it is at -135. The first stat I want to mention is CJ Gardner-Johnson has played 17 games this season, both in the regular season and in the playoffs, but only has 24 assisted tackles in those 17 games. That's an average of 1.4. So that checks the box. We're looking for that under. On top of that, last game versus the Packers, played 98% of snaps, but did not register a tackle, which is not uncommon for him. 5 games this season with only 1 tackle, and last week's game being his lowest marker of the year with 0 tackles. Only 2 or more tackles, assisted tackles that is, in 6 out of the 17 games played this season. So he's only getting the over here in a third of the games. So let's take the side with 2/3, and that is the under. So all these pieces combined with the fact that we already got a litmus test of what this game looks like. It's not exact playoff environment, but in week 12, CJ Gardner-Johnson did play the Rams, and he only had 1 assisted tackle in that game. So all things are pointing in the right direction here for him to hit this under. I know he's not a household name, but this is an obscure pick, and that's how you make money in this betting world. So once again, CJ Gardner-Johnson under 1.5 assists at -135. Axton, over to you. You on mute?
Oh, good call. Good start. That was a good start for us there with a good line to bet the under on CJ Gardner-Johnson, because if you even want to talk about recency bias or, kind of what have you done for me lately, he started out 3 of those 6 that he hit the over on. 3 of those 6 games were the first 3 games of the season. Ever since then, he's only hit 3 out of 14. So the odds are looking even more in your favor to start us off so far this week. CJ Gardner-Johnson just has not been much of a tackle getter. That could be just because the secondary's kind of been shut down or has been locked down for much of the season. There's just not been a whole lot of production to be had. So he's kind of been up and down much of the season, but mainly down. So if we can take advantage and find a line, you go look at his stats, it's like ones across the board, man. Like I say, there's literally like 3 games since week 3 that he's actually hit the over. So I like that to start us off this week. Let's see. My first play this week is going to be Terrell Bernard, his assisted line as well, but we're going to hit the over. This comes in at -120, and he plays the Baltimore Ravens this week. Baltimore has been a top matchup for opposing linebacker production all year long. They've run the ball. They almost average like 30 to 40 rushing attempts every week throughout the entire season. Last week, they ran for 40 or more times. The week before, they ran for 35. The week before that, they ran for over 40 attempts on the ground. Needless to say, there's tons of volume for opposing linebackers to potentially get tackling production. So tons of opportunity here. Last week, both Steelers linebackers got this against the Baltimore Ravens. And if you know anything about the Steelers linebackers, you know we like to bet unders on Patrick Queen, especially in that linebacker room. So considering Bernard is the lone tackle getter in the Buffalo linebacker room, Matt Milano sits next to him, but he's more of a coverage linebacker. So he covers right around 4 or 5 tackles a game, and Baltimore's given up like 17 or more. So I think the door is wide open for Bernard to smash this 3.5 assisted tackle line. He's actually even achieved this in 7 of his last 8 games. So the line's kind of history, and the matchup plays in our favor. We like the game script. We're on a hot streak. It's playoff time. So I think this is a good line for us to hit. And a good opportunity for Terrell Bernard to get over that 3.5 assisted tackle mark. And we don't have some bad odds here. So what do you think about that, Johnny? And then we'll get into your next play this week.
Yeah, I love it. Like you said, very achievable there to get 4 more assisted tackles. And if there's 17 tackles in that game, Terrell Bernard's at least getting 10 of them. Last week, Matt Milano was down to 81% snaps. I'm not sure if he's going to play closer to 100. But we do know that Terrell Bernard will. So, like you said, he's the breadwinner there, like this pick, and not too hard to achieve that. So we've seen, Bernard easily hit 5 or 6 tackles, assisted tackles, that is, in a game. So I'm with you on that pick for -120 there, Axton. My second pick is going to be a safety here, and that is for the Houston Texans. That is Eric Murray to go over 6.5 combined tackles at -125. Eric Murray's been pretty much rolling since he's entered the starting lineup. Jalen Petrie was put on IR towards the end of the season, but more specifically over the last 5 games, Eric Murray has been, business as usual, a solid tackling safety, 33 combined tackles over those last 5 games. So that just hits our, what we need here. Good average, just over 6.5 average, tackles per games there. Last week he had 7 tackles versus the Chargers. 4 of those were solos and 3 of them were assists. It doesn't really matter how we get them, as it is a combined tackle marker. But it's good to see that he hit it last week with 7 tackles when Herbert only had 14 completions in the game. So I'd like to think that this week that playing Patrick Mahomes, you're going to see more sustained drives. The Chargers punted 5 times last week. If you're looking at an NFL average, it's about 3.7. So, not to say that 5 is 20, but at the same time, you only had 5, or you've punted 5 times. You only had 14 completions. There wasn't many opportunities for Eric Murray to do damage, and he still did. He still hit this line for us. So, on top of that, like I said, I think Mahomes is going to continue to throw the ball, continue to sustain drives. I don't think this is going to be a run out the clock type of game. I think Texans are going to stay competitive in this game, which we're hoping for as well. And one more final stat here in Week 16 to put all the icing on the cake here. We got a litmus test of what this matchup is going to be. Week 16, Texans played the Chiefs. And in that game, Eric Murray played his normal every down role, had 10 tackles, 8 solos, and 2 assists. And actually, the week after that, had another double-digit tackle game. So, or maybe it was 9 or 10 tackles, back to back. So, Eric Murray is a walking bomb when it comes to getting tackles. It helps the fact that they really don't have, I think their second guy is Bullock. I think Caden Bullock. He's another rookie. He doesn't really get many tackles. So Eric Murray is the breadwinner back there. And I think in a game where you're looking at, a better matchup in Kansas City sustaining drives, he's in the right place at the right time. So Eric Murray, underrated player in the NFL, not a household name, but somebody who I like this week. So once again, over 6.5 combined tackles at minus 125. Axton, over to you.
Yeah, no doubt. Eric Murray has just proven himself this year to be heavily involved in the tackling game. Games of 7 combined, 9 combined, 10 combined, 8 combined, all in the last 6 games or so that he's played. So I mean, there's no doubt that he can hit over 6.5 tackles, and I think against a Chiefs team that he hit 10 tackles in a few weeks ago, like you mentioned, I think the 6.5 tackle mark ought to be right up his alley. So I like that play to come out firing, hitting a safety defensive back on your second play this week. I love that 6.5 marker for Eric Murray. My next play of this week is going to be Christian Rozeboom's assisted tackle line. We like a lot of the assisted tackle lines this week. Christian Rozeboom, I'm looking to hit his over 3.5 assisted. This comes in at plus 100. Last week, he had 7 tackles against Minnesota. 4 were solo, 3 were assisted, so he was just short of this. But he's had 4 or more assisted in 11 out of 17 games this season, between the regular season and the playoffs combined. This week, he plays Philadelphia, so I am expecting a healthy dose of Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts on the ground as the Philadelphia passing game kind of blows. They've got a bunch of playmakers, but it's kind of up and down. Jalen Hurts is just flat out better on the ground, and this team just operates better when they just work the ground game. So I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity for opposing linebacker tackling production. So I think Christian Rozeboom is in a great position to possibly achieve 10 or more tackles. Last time he played the Eagles, he got 12 tackles. With 5 assisted. So, if he's going to get around 10 tackles, I'd be willing to bet that right around half of them are going to be assisted. And that's just kind of how his splits have fallen this season. He's not one that primarily will just go out and get solo tackles without a doubt every single week. He's kind of a mix of both. But he can be, when he gets a high dose of tackling volume in general, you're going to see 4 or more assisted tackles. So I like that for Christian Rozeboom this week in a tasty matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. So thoughts on that, Johnny, before we get into your next play?
Yeah, man, absolutely love that pick. Love Christian Rozeboom for plus 105 this week. This 3.5 marker, like you'd mentioned, he hit it 11 out of 17 times. This is very attainable. Happened over 50%. So take the juice, take your money, throw it in a parlay, whatever you want to do, make a single out of it. And one more, little caveat here, icing on the cake for Rozeboom. Last week you had mentioned he played Minnesota. That's a good matchup, versus the linebackers. They're top 15 versus opposing linebackers giving up tackles. This week, like you mentioned, playing Philadelphia. Philadelphia in the regular season was a top 5 matchup. We loved when our linebackers matched up against Philadelphia. We knew that they were in a healthy dose for tackle opportunities. So Christian Rozeboom in a big pivotal game here, no stranger to big box scores. So I think he's going to get another one this week. And I would call this a bankable bet with juice. So it doesn't happen too often, folks. Take advantage of it while you can. For my next pick, I'm going back to the well here, Axton, back to the assisted tackle markers, and that is Mike Sainristil over 1.5 assisted tackles for minus 115. I just think this is a bankable bet. Minus 115. I don't care if it's plus 115, minus 115. I'm looking at the bet as a whole, and I think this is likely to happen. So you look at last week, Mike Sainristil, pump the brakes, Johnny. He only had 1 solo tackle. No assists, only 1 tackle to his name in the game last week versus Tampa Bay. But if you watch that game, come on now, Baker Mayfield wasn't Baker Mayfield in that game. Only had 15 completions for 185 yards. Tampa Bay was on the field 11 minutes less, as far as time of possession. So this wasn't a good barometer. Looking towards this week, I don't think that Mike Sainristil is going to have 1 tackle or anything close to. Usually, towards the end of the season there when he was playing 100% of snaps, he was no stranger to 5, 6, 7 tackle games. And over the last 5 games, he's had 26 tackles, and 10 of those have been assists. So that's, an average of 2. That's just what we need. 10 out of 18 games this season, he's had 2 or more assisted tackles. So Mike Sainristil didn't get a fair shake last week. Doesn't represent who he is as a player. He's a phenomenal rookie. He also went to Michigan. They are now playing the Detroit Lions. So I think there's definitely some added juice there, added motivation for him. On top of that, you've got um, Mike Sainristil was not guarding Mike Evans last week. This week, Mike Sainristil from the slot is probably going to be looking at a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is great news, to encourage tackles. On top of that, he's an adept, run stopper from the slot corner position. So this is a week where we're going to get David Montgomery back. We saw Jahmyr Gibbs have 22 carries last week. So I think you're going to get a healthy dose of Mike Sainristil, plays up the middle, runs up the middle, and a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown coverage. So perfect storm for him to hit over this 1.5 assisted marker for minus 115. So Axton, that's my take on it. How do you see it, man?
Yeah, I really like that for the rookie slot corner. You talk about he missed it last week. Well, he was also, like you said, Baker Mayfield was not doing Baker Mayfield things. He was actually guarding, I would imagine, Jalen McMillan out of the slot, who he pretty well shut down much of the game. Which, if you consider the matchup, Jalen McMillan is a rookie coming in and matching up against a rookie. I guess the matchup would tend to favor the defensive player on that end. If you come in with a highly touted corner who's kind of been starting all season, and Jalen McMillan kind of just happened upon his position. So he still had some room to grow, where Sandstro was more primed and ready for his position, and he was able to come in and shut down Jalen McMillan last week after he was on a hot streak to enter the playoffs. Now this week you're going up against Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has pretty well no less than like 7 receptions in any game this year. You're not going to stop him. I don't care who you have on him. Amon-Ra is just going to get his no matter what. And that considered, you're looking at maybe like a 3 or 4 tackle floor just from chasing around Amon-Ra St. Brown, and considering the fact he's also a slot corner and he's playing around the line of scrimmage, he's going to be in on some pass rush snaps too. And then also run defense as well. So we're looking at a floor of like 3 or 4 tackles just guarding Amon-Ra, and if he can just get a couple more through the run game, and other plays throughout the game where he's not necessarily guarding Amon-Ra, I think he could easily get a few more tackles. And you got to figure, considering what his splits look like this season prior to last week, he hit this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 before that. So I like that one going into this divisional round. Big game, big player, big matchup, a guy who's going to get his passes. I like the floor for Sandstro this week. So that's a solid play for a 1.5 assisted tackle line. See, my last play this week, I'm going to go with a linebacker in the Houston-Kansas City Chiefs game, specifically going to under on henrytootoo. Hope I pronounced that right, which I don't know that anybody really could. Anyways, I'm looking to hit his under on his combined tackle line. It comes in at plus 115. The Chiefs present a pretty middling matchup for opposing linebackers. The last 4 games prior to Week 18, when the Chiefs played their starters last, only 2 of the 8 linebackers before that had achieved this tackle line. So that considered, Henry was one of them who actually achieved this line, one of those 2. But at that time, Azeez Al-Shaair was suspended. He was not on the field, so Henry took the bulk of the workload, and he was able to come out on top of this line in that game. But we've got Azeez Al-Shaair back in the middle of that defense. henrytootoo will slide over as the LB2, and considering Henry has achieved this 3 times all year, including the 2 games where Azeez was out. He's only done this once as the actual LB2 next to Azeez this year. So I think this line is way too high for an LB2 in a middling matchup who is not an overachiever by any stretch. So we've got history on our side. And I like this one to wrap up my plays for this week with a little plus odds on top of that. So thoughts on that, Johnny? And then we'll get into a little ad break and then wrap things up here for the week.
Yeah, so I really like that pick, Axton. I think 8.5 is just a high marker for top tier linebacker, let alone Henry. So you mentioned the fact. Good point. Looking at the 2 of those games he's hit has come when Azeez has been out. Azeez is going to be back and playing this week, so definitely tempers expectations. And like I pointed out before, my opinion is this game is not going to be a run the clock out type of game. Isaiah Pacheco, who knows, what kind of where his health's going to be this week. We don't know really what the backfield touches are going to look like distribution wise. So I think I really don't think either of these guys. There's not even a line out for Aziz, so we can't really speak on that. But I wouldn't be touching the overs on either of these guys this week. I think that's fool's gold. So I think Axton is a good pick, and you get great juice at plus 115. So great find there. Henry, I just didn't look for him. Usually I'm not looking for unders, so I really just skimmed over his name. But when you look at this under the surface, it really is a great pick. So I'm happy you brought it into the show, Axton. And yeah, before I get into my final pick, I wanted to mention we are not done here at IDP Plus, even though it's the end of the fantasy season. As you can tell, we are still rolling bets out into the playoffs, as well as dynasty content. We have articles, videos still coming out. So you can still get a membership. Don't feel like your money's going to waste. We still have worthwhile content, as well, not only in the season, but in the off season as well. If you want to just go to the subscription page right now, our website is idpplus.com. But if you want to go straight to the subscription page and get yours today, you can use the promo code PROF and you will get 20% off your monthly subscription. So once again, that is idpplus.com backslash what is it backslash
Man, I can't even. Go to the website, you'll find it. Use code props. It's not hard to find. Get into the website. It'll be obvious. It ought to be on the side of the screen. Go in there, find where you get your subscription. Use code props, 20% off. The website's got all kinds of stuff. We've got content out the rear. We've got all kinds of tools, all kinds of articles, videos. We've got a Discord, man. We're in mock drafts all off season. Check it out. Give it a try. At least try it for a month. If you don't like it, you don't have to come back. But if you do, maybe we'll rope you in. So yeah, go check it out. Johnny, send us home. What do you got to wrap things up?
My last pick, the only one I got with juice this week, going back to the assist well here, and that is Roquansmith. Over 3.5 assisted tackles at plus 100. I told you I had a pick for every game. Here's the last pick for the last game. And we're talking about this Roquansmith pick, a little bit of bad taste in our mouth. He only had 2 assisted tackles last week versus Pittsburgh. But don't be discouraged, folks. He's hit this line that is over. He's hit the over in 10 out of 17 games this year. And a little bit surprised because both of the games in the regular season versus Pittsburgh, he did hit this line. So very surprised last week, but I do think it was a fluke. This is going to be a huge monumental game and a matchup we've already seen. In week 4 versus Buffalo, Roquansmith had the 4 assisted tackles we are looking for. So bottom line, the history has been good. I think Roquan is we all know he's a big time player, and big time players show up in big time games. And it's a good shot here. I'm not saying it's a bankable bet, but Roquansmith has done this more times than not, and you're getting juice on it. So I think just take the chance here, roll the dice for plus 100, and sit back and maybe Roquan can get 8 or 9 assisted tackles. That's just the type of player he is. So and before we go, well, I didn't tell Axon, but I got one little bonus one I want to squeeze in here too. In the same game, Nnamdi Madubuike, I like his under at 1.5 on the assisted tackles as well. We don't have a ticker for him, but his line is at minus 135. Madubuike has only hit the over 8 out of 18 games, so he's very likely to hit the under. He's only had 26 assisted tackles in 18 games. So that's an average of 1.44. That's under this line too. So Nnamdi Madubuike as well as Roquansmith. I like Nnamdi's under and Roquan's over. So that's my picks for the last game. Axton, you want to send us off for the show?
Yeah, that's a solid set of guys to wrap us up. I don't think there's a whole lot more I need to say. Roquansmith is an elite tackler. It's a big time game. Big time players show up. We could say the same, I guess. You could almost make the case for Madubuike, but the history is not on his side. And the matchup net doesn't necessarily favor him. He's not necessarily an upper echelon kind of player in his position, quite like Roquan is. Not to say he is not a great defensive tackle, but the assisted tackle line, that is an area that we can exploit this week. So I like that, like those plays to wrap us up. Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you out there who returning watchers, new watchers. Thank you for joining us this week and every week. Hopefully we can strike a chord with you. Let us know if anything did hit home and strike you to place a wager on any one of these guys. We want to hear about it. Like I say, this has been a great time all year, so I hope that you all have had fun in this journey with us. So thanks again to everybody, and good luck out there. We'll see you back here next week for the conference championship round. So good luck out there, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.